So, welcome to Azure Monitor BRK3349. I'll be joined later up on stage by Mahesh Narayanan, a Principal Program Manager on Azure Monitor. I'm Ani Kavale. I'm a Senior Program Manager on Azure Monitor as well. Today's session is everything about Azure Monitor, telemetry, and building integration with ITSM and SIEM tools. Quite a mouthful. Hopefully we'll try and get through all of that smoothly. So let's do a quick recap of what Azure Monitor is. Right, so our objective is to give you an end-to-end monitoring solution for your entire application. Right? So what we had to do first was unify our different monitoring solutions. That's why a big part of Ignite's announcements for Azure Monitor is that we've brought log analytics and application insights together underneath the Azure Monitor umbrella. So now we have a common backend and analytics platform that's built right into Azure, and all other Azure services can benefit from it. What this means for you, though, is that you get near real-time monitoring data at your fingertips from a common backend. And because of this common backend, now we can power end-to-end insights. Right? So whether the problem is in your application code, or the virtual machine it's hosted on, or even the network they're communicating over, we can give you a bird's-eye view of your entire stack, enable you to drill down, and identify the issue that's going on. Right? And now you might be wondering, okay, what happens with my existing monitoring solutions? You know, I've got tons of things that I use already. Well, we understand monitoring isn't done in isolation, right? It's a heterogeneous environment. You've got DevOps tools, ITSM tools, SIEM tools that you already leverage. And we want you to keep using those. We'll empower you to keep using those. Right? So we've already gone and built integrations with some of the most popular partner tools out there. And even if we don't have one existing, we have extensible APIs and SDKs that let you build your own custom integrations. So typically in Azure Monitor, there's three types of signals we usually most hear from our customers: metrics, logs, and alerts. And these signals can come from your application, right, where you've just added instrumentation to your own code, where you want to find out how many times did people click on that button I just deployed last week. Right? Now this application is more than likely hosted on a virtual machine, and it's emitting more logs into Linux-Sys-Log, or you want to collect perf counters about your application and how it's running from this guest OS. If this VM is in Azure, then it's hosted on a host that Azure manages. That means we can give you some outside-in monitoring about this virtual machine without you having to drop an agent into the guest OS or having to instrument your application. We can tell you things like, hey, this is how much CPU percentage you're using on your VM. Here's how much network came in. Here's how much network went out through the VM. Right? This becomes particularly important, this outside-in monitoring, this ability to give you some out-of-the-box visibility when we're talking about PaaS resources. Things like a network load balancer, things like a SQL database. Historically, you deployed these on VMs on-prem. You dropped an agent that could just collect custom metrics about those workloads and emit them up into your system. Well, in Azure, you can't drop an agent on these resources, and you shouldn't need to. These are managed resources by us. We should give you that visibility out of the box, and so we make that telemetry available to you. Now, all your resources are going to be hosted in a subscription, all right? And there's some subscription-wide resources, like Security Center, or Resource Health, which is like the declarative way for you to manage any resource in your Azure subscription. And we can tell you even more things about your resources there. Things like someone just rebooted a VM, someone deleted a VM. And the reason that your application is throwing 404s is because the VM it's hosted on just got deleted. Right? And all your subscriptions are then tied back to a single Active Directory tenant. That's your identity model in Azure. And again, little things that happen in your Azure tenant can have massive ripple effects all the way up your stack into your application. So someone ripping away Service Principal, the way that your app is talking to your Cosmos DB in the back end, someone deletes that authentication mechanism, and all of a sudden your application goes belly up. Right? So it's very important to get this end-to-end stack visibility, and that's where Azure Monitor is really filling that gap. Right? So we've talked about how do you get your entire stack getting into Azure Monitor. Now, what do we do with that data once in the system, right? We have a wide range of capabilities. So let's hop across right to that Analyze box. We've got the Metrics Explorer. This is a charting mechanism where you can choose a metric, filter on its dimensions, and plot the lines for it. Identify how many packets were sent over through this IP address on my load balancer or something like that. Right? Alternatively, if you've got logs, you want log analytics, where you can do some deep insights using our powerful query language. If you saw Scott Gu's keynote last night, so what you would have seen is him showing Azure Data Explorer, where you saw a powerful query language called Cousteau. That's really what we use in log analytics as well. And that allows you to do some investigations, identify what's going on in your environment. Now you can take those queries, take those charts you've created, and pin them to dashboards or curate custom views for yourself in the Azure portal. All right, and that's the visualize box. But what happens if you don't know what you need to chart, which metrics are important, what queries you need to run to really identify how your workload's performing? And that's where the insights box comes in. So as of Ignite, again, we're making some powerful insights available to you right out of the box, right? So we have Azure Monitor for VMs, where we know what a VM workload looks like, how to determine the health, how to determine the performance of these VMs. And so right on your VM blade, for a single virtual machine, or even at scale, managing your fleet, we give you an insight for these virtual machines. Similarly, for application insights, we can do distributed tracing, find out what's going on in your application, how it's communicating to other microservices. You can find all of that out through application insights. Let's jump down to the respond box. So you've got all this metrics and logs filtering into the system. Now you want to be able to identify anomalies in the system. So we've got a powerful alerting engine hooked up to action groups, so you can notify the right set of folks when alerts go off. Or respond to anomalies, again, by scaling up or scaling down your application as needed through our auto-scale engine. But the crux of today's talk is really about how do you integrate. You've got all this wonderful data in Azure Monitor, but you've got your existing partner tools. How do you get data to them? How do you get this powerful data we've collected into those systems and power your DevOps or ITSM integrations? Or alternatively, you've got some proprietary workloads running on your VMs or in your application, and you want to collect custom data about that we're not able to collect out of the box. How do you get that information into Azure Monitor and benefit from everything that we can do? But before we do that, let's talk about how do you wire it all up, right? I said you can get your data in Azure Monitor, but how does it work for resources, your operating system, or your application? So for resources, subscriptions, tenants, things like, how many Cosmos DB queries have been run against my Cosmos DB? Show me the deadlock logs for my SQL database, what's going on there. Don't worry about that. The Azure platform will take care of that. We give you the logs and metrics. For the operating system, so let's say you've got a virtual machine and you want to collect things like, hey, show me my Docker stats for my containers, or collect me logs from my SQL DB. Well, we have diagnostic extensions and agents that we roll out to you as part of Azure, and they can support both Windows and Linux, and they're workload agnostic. So again, containers, MySQL DB, whatever you're running, we can help you collect that information. And then finally, you've got an application running over this entire stack in Azure. You can use the Application Insights SDK, regardless of what language you're using. This may be Java, Node.js, .NET. We got you covered there as well. And we've just started a recent effort with Google in W3C to try and get even more further outreach to other customers by working on a standardized kind of application tracing methodology. And then finally, maybe you have a physical network device that's still on-prem, right, like a router, and you want to collect custom logs about that. You can emit those through our custom logs API. And then as of Ignite again, we've just released a custom metrics API. That means you can collect any custom metric about any Azure resource. Maybe you're doing a ping test against your application insights component, or maybe you're collecting some extra information about the load balancer that we're not giving you out of the box. Submit those back in through our custom metrics API. All right, so now you've got this data in the system, let's talk about partner integrations. So when it comes to partner integrations, we see there's two broad themes that we usually hear from our customers. Export data to existing cloud management tools. Help me use my DevOps tool continuously. I've got incident management processes. How do I hook up Azure Monitor into this? I've got security management processes. How does Azure Monitor fit into that, right? And the second style is I want to ingest custom data to Azure Monitor. So this is, again, back to those monitoring proprietary workloads. Maybe you're running SAP HANA or Oracle on your VM. You want to collect custom metrics about those, custom logs about those. How do you get that data into Azure Monitor and benefit from everything we can do with it? So let's focus on exporting data to your existing cloud management tools for a second. Let's dive a little deeper into that. So with metrics coming in from your entire stack across your application down to custom sources, they come into our metrics store, and they become available over APIs. These are the same APIs that power our charts, our dashboards, our visualizations that we offer out of the Azure portal. These are the same APIs we have our partners integrate with. And we've actually built up quite a community of partners through this integration methodology. So it's quite successful. And we've empowered lots of customers to use their existing monitoring tools. So what type of use cases does this really drive? So imagine yourself sitting in a live ops center, and you've got your IT ops guys looking at screens, identifying when there's a peak or a valley in your SQL database usage. Your VM performance is spiking. Partners like Grafana enable you to do that. Alternatively, you may have cost management or recommendation partners you want to integrate with, right? Tell you whether you've right-sized a VM or right-sized a SQL database. An example of that would be through Cloud Health Technologies, one of our partners. In this screenshot, what they're actually doing is showing you that a SQL database has probably been over-provisioned on a larger SKU than it needs to be. You could stand to downsize and save $400 a month. Or alternatively, maybe you need the full suite of monitoring and analytics, right? Whether it be dashboarding, alerting, anomaly detection. We have partners that fill that gap as well through partners like Datadog. All right, so you've got your metrics out of the system. What are your log analysis tools? How do you get logs into them? So again, you've got the entire stack submitting logs into our system, and we give partners a few ways to integrate with this. There's REST APIs where they can run queries and pull custom data out. You can write logic apps or trigger logic apps that would run a query every 5 minutes, do some analysis, maybe filter some results and submit them into a log analysis tool, or right back into our log tool. All right? But what we find is most popular with our partners is they like to build custom event hub connectors. And again, quite a community of partners through this methodology. And again, very successful. So what type of use cases do we see here? So security and threat detection is a big one. So you want to find out how many VM ports are open that put me at risk, right? So you've got 3 VMs with port 80 open, you should probably lock that down. Alternatively, you might want to find out that you've got some anomalous sign-in activity going on in East US. You should really look into that. IBM QRadar is one of those partners that could enable something like that. Alternatively, you want to just enable your developer investigations, help them debug, analyze what's going on in your environment when there's an outage or an issue going on. Partners like Splunk can enable you to do that. All right, so you've got your metrics and logs into the system. Now you want to detect anomalies. Like I mentioned before, we've got a very powerful alert engine that, through action groups, allows you to do a variety of different things, right? So when an alert fires, maybe all you need to do is wake someone up, wake up your on-call engineer, and have them look at the issue. So we enable you to send SMS, emails, or even generate voice calls out of Azure when you have an alert firing. But let's be honest, you probably already know what type of alerts you've written and how you're probably most likely going to remediate these. So we let you trigger functions or logic apps that would take this alert, analyze it, determine whether remediation is possible, try and take the remediation, and if it fails, then wake someone up. So you can run that type of automation. But if you have full-blown incident management processes already in place, and you have an ITSM system, we've gone out and built integration with some of the most popular systems out there: ServiceNow, Sharewell, and Provence. And if you're not using one of these ITSM providers, don't worry. We've still got you covered through webhooks. In fact, our next presenters are going to come up and talk about how Rackspace has actually used webhooks to plug into their existing ITSM provider. I'd like to welcome up Dugan Sheehan and Alex Campos from Rackspace.
Thanks, Andrew. So I'm Dugan Sheehan. I'm a principal engineer at Rackspace, and I want to start off giving you a little bit of background on our company, then talk about our unique requirements operating as a service provider, and then ultimately dive into the solution that we put together using Azure Monitor, and then probably the most exciting part, we'll show you in action with a live demo, kind of how we've glued everything together. So a little bit about Rackspace for those that are not familiar. Our mission is to provide a world's class service offering on the world's leading technologies. And we have a long and rich history with Microsoft. So starting back 18 years ago, supporting Windows Server, and we've evolved our service offering along with Microsoft itself. We were actually the first in 2014 to launch a managed service offering on Azure. So for those of you that were working with Azure back then, that was Service Manager, which was a lot of fun. We have over 2,500 Microsoft certifications, and we're a 5-time Partner of the Year award winner. So let's talk about requirements. So in our Azure practice area alone, we already have hundreds of customers. So that means thousands of tenants, subscriptions, and resource groups that we need to manage, which means tens of thousands of resources of all different types, and approximately 50,000 monitors that we're responsible for to make sure that we can cover an Azure environment and respond to events. And as Andrew mentioned, monitoring in Azure requires you to have integrations into every level of the stack. So you may have IaaS virtual machines. You probably have some PaaS components that are part of your environment. Maybe you're using Redis Cache, Azure Search, Azure SQL. You also have to have awareness about the platform itself. So are there any service health events going on? Is there any degradation? Maybe something within the activity log. Was there a build event that I care about? You also have the application itself. So you might have telemetry coming from there about usage, about availability. You may have some web test availability monitors making sure that the response time is intact and that it's up. You also probably have some networking components. You may have an application gateway. You may have a load balancer. You may be using traffic manager for global availability. And you need insights into every level to make sure that you can provide that comprehensive monitoring experience. In addition, we needed to integrate with our existing systems. So we have this army of experts used to working on Windows and Linux servers. We have networking specialists, and they're used to working a certain way. So we needed a way to get integrated into those existing business processes so we could take advantage of that workforce. So let's talk about the solution. So we have automation that runs and deploys the log analytics agent directly onto every IaaS resource that we manage. There's a Linux agent as well as a Windows agent. We wrote some custom automation for that, but also there is the ability now, be some good announcements this week around Azure policy that makes it very easy to institute that type of automation, have it run across your entire fleet. Similarly, we have automation that runs that makes sure of every resource type within the PaaS portfolio that we manage, that diagnostics are enabled and pointing to a log analytics workspace that we manage. Same thing for networking. Again, application gateway, load balancer. We're funneling that into log analytics along with platform events. So you can go in and tie the activity log into a log analytics workspace and get all that valuable data. And then again, the application is key. So you have the application data from application insights as well as web test availability monitors, and you can funnel that all into Azure Monitor. So now we have all this information about the comprehensive environment in a log analytics workspace, and it's really just a matter of querying that data for the relevant information. So some of you may have seen Evgeny demo yesterday as part of the keynote, some of the Kusto query language, but you're basically just going to ask across that data set for things like, tell me all the computers that have had high CPU. Tell me if a computer has had a failed backup. Tell me if I'm near a service limit and I need to upgrade. And all that's just kind of a simple query into that data set. So we have about 70 standard monitors that we layer across, and then we leverage action groups with a custom webhook receiver so that every one of those events that we care about gets funneled into our system. So currently, our webhook receiver is running as a web job, but that could very easily be a logic app. It could be a custom app that you run on premise. It could be an Azure function. A lot of options there. So we take a webhook receiver that takes the event. We feed that into our proprietary ticketing system. We've actually added a secondary step that we call smart tickets, which we'll demonstrate, which takes a curated set of PowerShell and Bash scripts and automatically runs those in response to alerts. So we can take an event to remediation, potentially without any human intervention. So I'm going to hand off now to Alex to demonstrate the ITSM integration and smart tickets.
Thank you very much, Dugan, and hello to everyone. So in this demo, we're going to show how we integrate the Azure Monitor system with our internal ITSM, which is used by our support rackers to troubleshoot and triage the alert tickets that we get from Azure, as well as the engine that Dugan described, which is the smart ticket engine, which essentially is going to enrich the alert with additional very valuable information for that particular alert that will make it easier for a support racker to troubleshoot and triage and actually resolve that in a much faster response time, as well as in some instances completely resolve that alert without any human intervention. So when doing this demo, we're also going to show you how we configure the different signals for Azure Monitor so we can get all of this engine working. In addition, we're going to show you the different alerts that we have, and we're going to drill down in some of the key elements of those Azure alerts that are really required for our integration to work. And finally, we're going to simulate a backup event failure that is going to go through this backend webhook configuration that we're going to show you. So let's just jump at the demo really quick. Sweet. So what I have on the screen is a relatively small, but very like typical representation of a customer environment where we see a mix of IaaS and PaaS workloads. As you can see, we have some virtual machine, we have a VNet, we have some Azure SQL database components, as well as a recovery services vault and a web app in there as well. So as Dugan mentioned, we do have automation that will detect whenever a new virtual machine it's provisioned in the subscription, and it's actually going to go ahead and double check if it has the Azure monitoring agent installed. If it doesn't, it's going to push that via an extension. Again, this is happening automatically through Azure automation. And as you can see here, we do have the monitoring agent already on these VMs. We do that for Linux and Windows. In addition, we also have automation that will look at the different managed PaaS resources that are on our portfolio, and also look at the diagnostic settings, as Dugan was saying. So if we look at this SQL database and we click on this signal, we're going to see that we already have pre-configured this source to send to log analytics with the workspace that we are managing. In addition, you're going to see that we had all these different logs and metrics already being forwarded to that workspace. I think it is good also to mention that by now, pretty much all of the different PaaS resources in Azure are ingesting this data into this common diagnostic pipeline, so you can pretty much use automation or PowerShell or Azure templates to enable this, and it's going to be there. As an example, I have here some of the different data sources that, or the different metrics that will be available. So there's going to be for a lot of different providers. Okay, so on top of this, we also have the different alerts. So I'm going to go and jump to my Azure Monitor and look at the alerts. Click on Manage Alert Rules. And we're going to see that right now we have 86 or so alert rules. These are going to be looking for your common IaaS limits, such as high CPU utilization, high disk utilization, or some critical events, such as like domain replication failures, SQL backup failures, and whatnot, as well as some PaaS alerts as well. And I want to show you some of the key elements of this alert configuration. And again, we're pushing this through automation. On every new subscription, we're going to, by default, send these 70 or so default standard alerts. So we're looking at a backup failure alert right now. And as you can see, we do have a signal configured that is coming from our log analytics data. And on the alert details, we just have very basic description information, but really what I want to concentrate on is on this third element on the screen, which is to define the action group. So as we discussed earlier, we do have a webhook endpoint. So if I click on this action group name, I'm going to see the details that I have here on the screen. Action groups. Go back. Yeah, and you can see the action type is a webhook. And all it is behind the scenes is a URI of our webhook with that secret code that is going to allow to post. In addition, we also have this custom JSON payload, which is also what helps us to kind of tie all of the information together and identify that in our backend ITSM system so we can pinpoint which of the customer environment is the one that is in trouble. So as you can see, we have such things such as the alert ID, in this case for the alert ID for the RAC's backup vault error. We have the ticket severity, we're going to use that for our backend system so it can raise different severities. In this case, I have a standard. We can have emergency or critical as well. We have the notification type, which is in this case is public. That means that whenever this alert is fired, a ticket is going to be created, and an alert is going to be sent to our customers so they can actually see that alert on the end. And we have additional information that we're bringing, like the workspace ID and stuff that is going to help us kind of identify what subscription also is in trouble and whatnot. So to simulate this, what I have prepared is pretty much a JSON payload that is exactly the same format as the Azure Monitor is going to send to us, to our system. And I am going to just click on send here. And what's happening right now is that we're taking this payload and our system is enriching that with additional Rackspace customer metadata. And if we look at our proprietary ITSM environment, we see that we have a ticket in our system already. And if we look at this ticket, we're going to see that payload that was just processed by our monitoring system. And we see pretty much the same representation of JSON in a little bit smaller format, but we have the same key elements. We have the virtual machine that is in trouble. We have the operation name, the backup protected item, and then we have the activity status of failed. So now that we have that information, we also identified the difference, the subscription, where it came from, and the resource ID of the recovery services vault. So we pretty much have all the information that our smart ticket engine needs to kind of take action, right? And as you can see at the bottom, we even use that alert ID to create like a enrichment metadata. So it's going to point our support rackers to a custom wiki that is going to have instructions on how to manually handle that ticket if they need to. But in this case, I actually have a sample event that actually shows what happens after the fact, because it's going to take a little bit of time. So in the interest of time, I wanted to show you like the different steps. So first, we see that the message was queued for processing by our smart ticket engine. So at this point in time, without any human interaction, we already have automation that is going to install a custom script extension on that virtual machine. And that custom extension is going to run within the context of the operating system. It's going to check for different key services for that backup service to function. It's going to restart any services if it needs to. And in addition, once it kind of does like a health on the operating system, it's going to go ahead and kick a second remediation activity that is going to happen at the platform level. So that is also key for our success stories, because we also have the ability not only to troubleshoot within the virtual machine, but also run platform level operations. Like in this particular scenario, we're actually running like another backup. Because we know that it failed, we restarted the agents. Now we want to protect the customer data by actually creating a backup activity. And at the end, just within some minutes, we're going to see that we were able not only to get notification, take action, but actually resolve that ticket without any human intervention. So, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Dugan. I guess this was insightful. They definitely deserve another round of applause. Great to see some good integration story coming across and stuff. So resuming the session in the presentation mode, right? So we just spoke about the integration themes, two broad integration themes. One of the integration theme which Ani covered and kind of well articulated with good examples by partners Rackspace was on the export data, right? Basically about exporting the telemetry data from Azure Monitor into third-party cloud management solutions for the overarching operations need of any customers and stuff, right? So that's the one side of the story. The second, what we're going to speak, the rest of the session is about ingesting the custom data from diverse set of workloads, proprietary systems, various different technologies that you might be having. They could be running on your Azure or on your hybrid environment. How do you go about experiencing the monitoring for those workloads and stuff? And this is where we are trying to, if you look at the overall unified monitoring picture, there was one place where we had insights in the topmost bar. That was all about, for the need of understanding what to monitor, how to monitor, those aspects of it gets addressed by having certain pre-canned set of monitoring experiences out of Azure Monitor. And we have enabled that for, started enabling that for a few first-party services and resources like virtual machines and containers. And that's exactly what I'm going to double-click into a little. That's the broader idea is to understand that more from a model point of view, that how this monitoring experience is going to start lighting up for the first-party services and find, pretty much it being self-sufficient for the needs of the customers, and trying to see that model, carrying forward for even the third-party technologies or, proprietary workloads that you might have. So here is a, quick kind of a glimpse of the model itself, right, for the Azure monitoring for VMs. On the left, you get to see all the potential different, signal sources, right from the operating system, the Azure resources, in this case, the virtual machines, the agents and extensions which are supposed to run on the VMs, and the subscription and the customer account. All of the data
flows into the data platform that Azure Monitoring has, the metrics and logs predominantly. And the bottom, you get to see the response. There would be pre-canned set of monitors, which is basically constantly and continuously monitoring these particular resources for different aspects. In case of a virtual machine, you're going to look at it from the availability, the performance of that particular VM, the guest operating system characteristics. It's going to look at critical core components of the virtual machine, like your CPU, network, memory, disk space, and stuff, and even some of the critical core services. For example, especially from the point of view of its remoteability, reachability, those aspects of it, right? And the analyze area is where you get to tap into some of these processed information as well as the raw signals and do your diagnostic needs, right? From basically plotting some of the time series or doing log search and slicing and dicing various different data that you have in your log analytics and stuff. Visualize is kind of giving you a jumpstart monitoring experience, which is going to be addressing the need from a single resource point of view as well as the at scale. Because pretty much if you look at all these resources, when they have deployed in an at scale context, there could be certain logical perspective of these resources. Some of the, for example, in case of VMs, there could be VM scale sets, or there could be clustered VMs and stuff. So how do you go about having things monitored and make much more insightful when it comes to your needs of your application and services? And the last but not is the insights. So this is the overall package. The package helps you with not only having things onboarded, the solution on several virtual machines in this case. It could be similar kind of monitoring experience to be onboarded to the containers and stuff. And how do you go about having the onboarding experience more compliant with regard to the virtual machines that you're interested to monitor using the Azure policies and stuff. So that's the whole scheme of, if I may put it across as a model for monitoring and Azure services, which you're trying to replicate for several of the core services of Azure, as well as trying to extrapolate that as a model for proprietary workloads. Here is a quick glimpse of rich insights of virtual machines. There is going to be a separate session on this. Towards the later part of the slides, I'll speak about the sessions. You should attend that just to get a deep insight of the monitoring experience here. As you can see, there is a deep health monitor of the virtual machines, various different aspects of the VMs getting monitored, right? The core components, the core services, different aspect of the core services itself gets monitored with different attributes. There's an availability aspect, there's a performance aspect, and there are several monitors which is going to help you in understanding and interpreting the health of that particular VM better. And helps you with localizing the issue as well, so that you can quickly figure out what to fix and with deep insights on the cause and which comes in as part of your knowledge articles and stuff. When you're looking at any of these resources, it's very important to understand from the impact point of view. I mean, how are these VM resources actually contributing to a larger scheme of application and stuff? And that's what the dependency map provides you in, with cross-dependent VMs and the processes through which the dependency is established, those aspects of it, right? And there's a lot more insights coming from the log analytics onto this specific dependency, so that you get much more insight with regard to the impact. Last but not the least, the utilization, right? So any of these resources, we want to be providing the necessary experiences so that you're on top of its utilization, both from your capacity planning point of view or the utility of that particular resource with regard to the application, right? So having an understanding of that to be the model, what we are trying to do is, our intent, our vision is to trying to have a similar kind of experience, open for proprietary workloads that you might be having. This could be like Oracle or SAP, or even some of the complex workloads like SharePoint, which is distributed and stuff, right? So as you can see, pretty much the source of signals are same as what you had for the first-party services and stuff. Apart from having a custom sources of agents and extensions, which some of these workloads would need or demand. But then, so long as the data that is being processed is actually contributing to the data platform of Azure Monitoring, like your metrics and logs, then the rest of the experience is going to start lighting up some of those components like shared components, like your Metrics Explorer or your Log Analytics and others. And the other visualization aspect is something which can be built, leveraging several different capabilities that what we have, right? So as part of this journey of monitoring the proprietary workloads, we have started partnering with several partners. And one of the partners with whom we are working very close at this point in time to extend our monitoring portfolio for the benefit of our customers is Blue Medora. We are working with them extensively for enabling, first, the analytical insights of several of these particular workloads. As you can see, the portfolio is pretty comprehensive. There's Azure workload, that's pretty good set of workloads, the popular set of workloads that the customers run in the Azure. That gets monitored with this particular solution. There's also hybrid story, a compelling hybrid story from a multi-cloud as well as an on-premise data center point of view that can be accomplished with this partnering. As you can see, this 150 plus enterprise technologies. The Blue Medora team is working on having more and more of these technologies to be supported, and we would start seeing that experience light up pretty much along the scheme of how that architecture that I was trying to allude to earlier. So this slide is basically kind of helping you with understanding the bottom segment, which is having a diverse set of workloads and technologies on multi-cloud, on-premise, Azure, and how the bind plane service is able to process several of these information and integrate with the log analytics to offer great analytical insights of the workloads and stuff. I have a short video here to give a sense of the value prop. So let me just click on it. Yeah, as you can see, this screen is part of the Azure Monitor. The integration is in play now. It's part of Azure Monitor, and each of the workloads have diverse set of characteristics of workload itself. From a capacity point of view, in this case, there's an example going with the SQL Server, where you can literally see the database size distribution, the file size distribution, those aspects of it. It does a deep analysis on the query analysis, for both the read as well as the write operations, and comes out with several anomalies that the customers are interested to see this when it comes to the application. It also provides a good view from the availability of these resources and where the resources is running on which virtual machine and the core components of those virtual machine as well from a CPU, memory, and network point of view. Right, so a very comprehensive view. While that is the analytical dashboard of that particular workload, they're also going to have some pre-canned set of alerts, which is going to ship, which is going to provide a very insightful monitoring experiences, for the several of the criteria that the workload has been monitored for. So, so that was the kind of integration that we are trying to work with our partners to unblock the customer's need when it comes to their diverse set of workloads that they have in Azure to be monitored with a monitoring experience that is consistent to their first-party services itself. Very comprehensive insight through which they would be able to have a jumpstart monitoring experience, not really trying to figure out what needs to be monitored, how it requires to be monitored. All that is something which is being taken care by us and our partners. And the key takeaway with all of this integration, what we had explained, both from the point of view of how the telemetry interfaces and the signals of the Azure Monitor can be consumed by the third-party, your proprietary IT systems or the IT ops technologies that you have, or even how the third-party technologies can be monitored out of the Azure Monitor, something which we kind of try to capture in this particular session. The key aspect is we are working with a diverse set of partners, and we have a very excited partner ecosystem with whom we are trying to enable several of these integrations to meet the needs of the customer and stuff. So last but not the least is some of the breakout sessions which we highly recommend you to attend. The full stack monitoring, which is going to be kind of delivered today around like 4 o'clock, I guess, is a full stack monitoring experience provided by our Director of Monitoring, Shivakumar. He's going to cover a very comprehensive view with regard to the direction of Azure monitoring investments and the future trajectory of investments as well as part of it. There are several deep dive breakout sessions which is going to give good insights on virtual machine insights or the container insights so that you can see how things are in play and how is it going to help your monitoring needs, right? And there's going to be also theater sessions which is going to help you with things, some scenario click-throughs of several of these capabilities and stuff. So I hope this was helpful. It gives you a good, hope it's giving you a good insight of how Azure Monitor has evolved to help with your operational needs, and we're open for question and answers. We'll be here for a couple of more minutes in case you want to, have some specific questions. I request the other speakers to be on the podium so that we can, take some of these questions as well. Last but not the least, please do evaluate the session because it's super crucial for us to understand whether what we have built is helping you. If there are any gaps that you want us to address, then please share that as part of the feedback. If you see something is looking promising, then please start using the product and give us feedback. Thank you. Yeah.
So we tried using the Snow connector.
Okay.
And we ran into where Snow has a security filter down where it only allows subnets as a whitelist.
Mm-hmm.
And the connector for the Azure connection won't allow or provide a sort of a specific subnet or.
Yeah, there's no static IP or, yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
And I'm kind of like on a pending, if I tell the Snow administration team, go ahead and unlock it, it's going to raise a lot of flags in the ISO.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Right?
great point. We've actually been doing a bunch of work leading up to Ignite to get Azure Monitor onboarded to secure VNet tagging. So what ServiceNow could do then is there's just a way to onboard saying I trust this VNet or this Azure Monitor tag, and it would open up a bunch of service tags just for our services. Drop by our booth a little bit later. There's our PM lead for alerts is going to be down there.
Yeah.
I can definitely put you in touch with him, and he actually owns that ServiceNow integration as well, so he can walk you through that. Yeah.
That'll be great.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Quick question. Azure OMS, does that replace Azure Monitor now replaces OMS? Because OMS is a suite of log analytics and
Right.
ASR and backup and stuff, and we're using that. So Azure Monitor is the next.
Yeah, it's just kind of, consider like OMS, I think last year was like we rebranded as Log Analytics, or Log Analytics was that
App
tooling.
Insights.
And now we're pulling that in under the Azure Monitor umbrella, right? So not
Is it in Azure Gov?
Sorry,
available?
it's getting there.
Right.
It's gonna be there.
How long?
Yeah. I
We'll
don't
say
have
getting
exact
there
dates.
means a year and a half later. Look at Azure Security.
No. I'm talking about months.
That's right. That's right.
Months? 6 months?
Yes, in a few of them. Yeah, it depends which one specifically you're running in. If you're talking about Azure Gov.
Access and
Yeah.
VA.
So then within the next 6 months.
Thanks.
So this Azure Monitor API, does it support almost all of the services on Azure right now, or?
So we have roughly like 75 of the services supported for metrics, maybe like 40 for logs.
Okay.
And that list is growing, month over month. I actually own that page that Alex showed where we keep that up to date. So I update it once a month with more services, more metrics coming out.
Okay, so there's a REST API.
Yes.
Is there a Java SDK for Azure?
Yeah, we have a Fluent SDK for both .NET and Java and Python, I think. So we have a bunch of SDK support for the metrics as well.
Not to monitor Java apps, I mean to ask
To query the data set. Yeah. So we do have an SDK on there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the documentation available?
The documentation is available. If you hang around after we finish up, I'll send you the link for that.
We should take it offline because we would like to get a sense of the Java SDK needs. There are SDK, from the native, managed code perspective, and for several of the Azure monitoring APIs, we are planning to have the Java and the Go related, but then let's hear out the ask that you have specifically and stuff. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, so can you just give a little bit of a detail on the environment? Because we know customers trying to have pretty much all the data come into one workspace, especially from getting to access or tapping into the different data insights of several of these particular workloads and stuff. And that provides a much more a deeper and honest diagnostics, if I may, right? Otherwise, things would be far more siloed. Even though if things are, we support the cross workspace query, but then the we know customers definitely trying this. Unless you guys have some, Rico?
Yeah, I think generally it's good to centralize what you can. I think the one consideration is access to that data. So there are RBAC roles to the workspace itself, but currently within the workspace, there's no segregation. So if you have different application teams that can't see each other's data and you're going to give them direct access, you probably want to separate it in different workspaces. If that's not a concern, you have like a central IT team, I'd probably suggest just to centralize into one workspace.
Yeah.
So great question, and that's kind of part of this whole unification, bringing Azure Monitor together and under one umbrella, right? So in the short term right now, yeah, you're right. That's where we are. We're taking steps so that at the very least you could join the two workspaces together in your queries. And in the long term, we would give you the opportunity, yes, to send your application insight stuff into the same workspace as your log analytics. But in the shorter term goal is at least let you join the two sets of data so that you can do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Sure. Any other questions?
What will be the licensing model for that? So it's just based on consumption for like hosted stuff, or because okay, it's in preview right now. So, but when it's going to be RTM?
Yeah. So for log analytics application insights, no licensing model changes. Like what's presented online as the Azure Monitor pricing is the exact same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But if I, as a partner, for example, want to create my own solution, how I can integrate it? So it will be like on Azure Marketplace or where?
Right. So there would be an Azure Marketplace integration from a pricing model or the business model for those partner solutions. I think so that we still have some works to be done. It all depends on the kind of offering the partners would be offering, because there are partners who would like to offer it like more like a managed service, and there are partners who would like to have it far more, kind of integrated experience out of the Azure Monitor. And in case of the integrated experience, pretty much it would be the consumption-driven pricing model. In case of managed rep, I think so there's a few more things that has to be hashed out. We are working on it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right. Right. Good question. So what is, may I ask a few questions? What is the kind of an integration that you're looking forward for? Okay. Okay. Right, right. Yeah. So the way we look at the monitoring offering that SCOM supports and the Azure monitoring that we offer support, and the landscape of the customers itself. There are a segment of customers who are not moving to the cloud that rapidly, but then they pretty much have all their IT ops system on the on-premise, and they're having integrated that with the SCOM. Then the SCOM would continue to be that particular monitoring platform with some deep insights that can be tapped into with the cloud assets, right, using the Azure Management Pack or AWS Management Pack and so on and so forth. If you're looking at, if you're looking at the other side of experience where customers are rapidly moving to the cloud with Azure and towards Azure or AWS or any other cloud, the strategy is going to be more around the Azure Monitor. So even the IT ops system, we expect it to be around the Azure Monitor integration. And in those scenarios, you will have SCOM, kind of an integration where the SCOM gateway is able to still help with some kind of an insights of the on-premise assets into the Azure Monitor and stuff. Some of these things are still early thinking, and we are working towards some of this model. Since you brought this question, we'd love to have you on the booth so that we can double click into the details on this and understand the kind of needs that you have, and we can figure out like what would be the right model that which we can work. Some of these things are exploratory at this point in time, but the existing integrations, for example, like what we had with the SCOM and the log analytics continue to exist. You could still pump in all the alerts and the events what the SCOM is generating into the log analytics, and then you could process out of Azure. So that would continue to work. But if there is any other different level of integration that you're looking at, then something we would like to double click into detail.
Mahesh, so
Yeah.
there's a session this afternoon at 4 o'clock in W414. They're actually going to go through the new release model for SCOM, which is at least 3 times yearly. They did announce that they will download the models, formerly known as Service Map, directly into SCOM, and they're going to go through kind of what their timeline as well. But that would be a good session for you to attend today, 4 o'clock, W414.
It's a theater session, right?
No, it's a breakout.
Breakout session.
Yeah,
Breakout session.
Prasad is doing it.
Prasad's breakout session, yeah.
It's in W414. Yeah, so OCC W414.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, thanks.